Back to the program. It's the Vicki McKenna show. I've somehow managed to resurrect my computer. It's brand new. It's like 3 weeks old, 4 weeks old. Anyway, I spit on it, I punched it, and then I asked it nicely, and it finally responded. So, all right. Dr. Andrew Fox joins me again on the program. And for those of you who forgot, he is the author of the book, Truth in the Age of Applause: How Stupidity is Ruining the American Dream. Dr. Fox, thank you for joining me on the show again.
Pleasure to be with you, Vicki.
So, Dr. Fox, I mean, we could talk about any one discrete issue. If you would like, you can pick one as an example. But generally speaking, just the title of your book, Truth in the Age of Applause. I think, and this gets to virtue signaling, right? Feeling good about yourself, feeling superior is more important, maybe I'm wrong, is more important to a significant portion of the population than actually reckoning with reality and doing things that work. And I think that the ignorance of the general population is the reason why socialism is tweaking people's sense of superiority and feeling of righteousness, and they are willing to sacrifice this whole country on the altar of that ignorance. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all. It comes directly from the pages of George Orwell, 1984, with Big Brother. And the parenthesis in the book that I wrote, How Stupidity is Ruining the American Dream. Stupidity, I quote Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who addressed the German people in the Second World War, and he said, it's not that you're not intelligent or rational or logical or reasonable, but you're abdicating on those human faculties just to go along with the ideology. And the ideology, of course, back then was the Third Reich. Now, I'm not suggesting there's a Fourth Reich in the United States, but I am suggesting that intelligent, smart, rational, logical, reasonable Americans are like scooping out those human faculties from their brain and leaving them at the door and just going along with this ridiculous socialist ideology that makes no sense, both in the world of fiction and in the world of fact.
So here's the thing. They think it means, and I've been going off about this for, the better part of an hour on the program, that it means just the rich paying their fair share. Because Barack Obama, I maintain, and I think I could defend this in a court of law, functionally changed the perceptions of what socialism meant. From seizing the means of production, seizing private property, redistributing everything, and so that everybody has, an equal share of nothing, while a whole bunch of people controlling have everything to will power. It just means the rich not paying their fair share. And so if you support the rich paying their fair share, you're a socialist. Well, the socialists understand that's not what it means, and so they're taking advantage of that. But here we are. It feels better. It feels better to say that. I'm fair. I care about poor people. I don't have to do anything, but I care. And so they vote like this is real. And I'm worried, Mom Donnie, I'm worried about this guy in whatever his name is in Michigan, who's probably going to win the Democratic primary, what the DSA is doing to the DNC. We can't have a country that has Republicans and a party that hates the country and wants to tear it down and a bunch of stupid people who are willing to go, yeah, that makes me feel better.
Well, Vicki, I come from Great Britain, and I'm a naturalized United States citizen now. And so let me say this. It's got a Shakespearean twist to it all, Shakespeare being British. Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet, to be or not to be. What we have now is the lunacy of to ID or not to ID. It's the biggest dilemma. You want to get on a plane, you show your ID. You enter a government building, you want to get medication, you want to cash a check, you show your ID. But apparently, when you go to vote, there's no need to show your ID. One side emphasizes election integrity, and the other side emphasizes voter access. Look, I'm a naturalized citizen. If I'm going to vote, I'm proud to get out my driver's license or any picture ID and present it to show I am an American citizen. Here's why I have the right to vote, and I'm proud to vote. That is part of the lunacy of socialism that's coming in. And it sounds really compatible with the individual who abdicates on their individual and moral thought. It makes absolutely no sense. Again, it's a page from George Orwell. So identity in the hands of socialism is either oppressive or essential. It's essential for government-supported grocery stores, but it's oppressive when it comes to voting. Borders become obsolete or they become indispensable. So apparently there are borders to these grocery stores in New York that Mamdani wants to create for New Yorkers only. But on the other hand, borders are terrible. Let's remove them. Let's have a no-border country. And so what you're dealing with is like a 12-year-old pubescent teenager or preteen who can't make up their mind, who are totally driven by their feelings, feel let down by previous generations. They're politically homeless, and they go for these sound bites that you correctly say impoverish everyone else and make a few wealthy that are ironically going up against the wealthy.
Yeah, this is cognitive dissonance as a political system. That's what it is. Because you cannot you cannot support. I mean, yes, you can. That's the problem. You shouldn't logically support IDs for government grocery stores and not having IDs to vote. You can't, that shouldn't go together, but it does. So when you have broken down the concept, this is American education. This is the failure to monitor American education that allowed it to create a system of progressive moral relativism, postmodernist garbage that has churned out generations now, at least 2 generations of people who are not bothered by this cognitive dissonance. Because if they hear you say it, Andrew, what they're going to do is stick their fingers in their ear or grab a bullhorn and scream racist in your face
I know.
until your eardrums break.
But the moment you change a principle, and there are many principles, of course, that the United States has built on, the moment you change a principle with politics, it ceases to be a principle. It then becomes a prop. It really does. And a republic like ours, the United States of America, if it's built on props, evidently that will fall. One of these props is socialism. And again, I think I mentioned it before. It's like seeing a zookeeper coming out to a zoo, to sea lions, and it's lunchtime. And the zookeeper's got a whole bucket of fresh fish. The sea lions will clap, they'll applaud, they'll do backflips, they'll sing, they'll do anything just to get some fish. And that's what we're seeing with the socialist movement, is the leaders are coming out with fish, and people are applauding them just to get some fish. How can Mamdani maintain 30% less grocery stores, or the cost of groceries being 30% less, sustained over the next 5 years? Look, even the Treasury of the United States can't predict that.
He can't.
You just cannot do it. But when you've got a cheesy smile, when you've got the right optics, and when you get main media exposure, look at what's happening in Seattle, where the mayor right now, Wilson, is being interviewed. Do you still stand by your compassionate towards teenagers when a teenager has murdered a number of people in Seattle and she wants to treat them with compassion? I'm sorry, the law should change. That teenager should go down for the rest of their life. And so it's not just groceries or voter ID or not to ID. It's actually issues of life and death now.
I agree. It's the principles turned into props. All principles, because again, you go in, and I don't want to, go too far. I've done this many, many years, over the many, many years. Talk about the restructuring of the concept of truth itself. Once we've allowed that to take place and had mandatory education and 2 generations of kids being exposed to it, then it becomes easier to turn principles into props. And I like how you said that. If they're props, they're not principles. You can't have a country built on props. And that's exactly what we've got right now. So that when you do confront somebody, and this is a problem, we have a gubernatorial candidate, Francesca Hong, when you confront her with her own record, with her own statements, she just dodges. She just doesn't. I mean, it's almost like it doesn't land. She just moves on to the next thing, even if it's completely contradictory. And it's totally fine. They're fine with it. That cognitive dissonance has now been internalized in such a way that if you question it and try to make them uncomfortable, I think they're incapable of being uncomfortable. So Mamdani can't have government-run grocery stores that sell food at 30% less for any length of time. He'll run the private grocery stores out. There will be no food. The government will not be able to maintain it. and people will be, where's my food? And I mean, if he wants riots in New York, he's going to get riots in New York with this. And the same with Katie Wilson. If you don't want to put teenagers in prison for murdering people, then teenagers are going to murder people. And you can keep walking out to the camera and smiling and crying, and it's fine. And the thing about, look, how long did the Soviet Union last? A long time. People will put up with this crap for a long time.
You know, there's nothing new here at all. Absolutely nothing new. I really love history. You go back to Aristotle, and he argued that justice requires treating every case alike. Murder is murder. Theft is theft. You cannot swap one for the other. I think it was Sicario who insisted on the law that should affect reason rather than passion. I don't care if you've taken someone's life and you're a teenager. You've taken someone's life. It's got nothing to do with passion or compassion. It's got to reflect reason. And so with the socialist movement and the way they change wording and they want to change policy and law, murder becomes quite attractive and telling the truth becomes a lie. It's like they say, a rich man tells the truth and a poor man tells a lie. That's their spin. Who are you going to believe? And there's a rich man who tells the truth because the poor man can't possibly know it. So they're pandering to the weakness and the lack of individual moral judgment that even Aristotle says, look, you got to treat each case like for like. You cannot have these sweeping things that undermine 250 years of the building of the great experiment, which is the United States, that is still going on. And we have this opportunity in the primaries to vote for our Republican representatives and get them in office.
Well, the Republicans have to start talking like this, okay? El Sayed in Michigan just won his Democratic Senate primary. The radical from, the guy that makes, almost makes Francesca Hong look normal in Wisconsin just won his Michigan Democratic primary for Senate. So, it can't just be you writing a book and me on talk radio and, random people in their own little corner of the podcast world. It's time for the institutions to stand up and start demanding that the principles replace the props, that the principles mean something. And we have not had much in the way of leadership on that. I will exempt President Trump because he has tried, I think, very hard to do this. And by the way, he's very plain spoken. I was just listening to Jordan Peterson talk about jargon. He never uses jargon. He's very plain spoken. And so it's landing right, even though it's kind of harsh. It sticks. And that's the thing that we need more people doing. He's not, but he doesn't have an army of plain-spoken people standing on principles behind him. He's got Rubio, he's got Vance, he's got Bessent, he's got a few. But he needs people to reclaim the institutions for principle. And I just loved how you said that. I'm stealing that from you, and not props.
Going back to it, Shakespeare's Hamlet, the character, Hamlet understood truth amid deception. If you know the story of Hamlet, again, ironic. It's a story of fiction, but we need the Hamlets today to come out, exactly as you say, come out by storm and start to petition their representatives and, nail their colors to the mast, state what they want for the United States. So it's no longer this to ID or not to ID. It's I cannot think of anything more ludicrous than not voting for the Save America Act to preserve democracy, and yet the idiotic argument is that it undermines democracy.
Yes.
And yet your idea is still demanded for so many other things. I'd love to be in New York when these grocery stores open. I'd love to go there with my British accent and, order some apples and pears.
I think I would like to as well.
Let's see where we go from there.
I think I'm going to visit.
I'll take my Texas driver's license.
I'm going to bring my Wisconsin driver's license. I'm going to see if they sell me a bag of apples. Thank you so much for joining me on the program, Dr. Andrew Fox. Great to have you.
Pleasure.
And he is the author of Truth in the Age of Applause, How Stupidity Has, help me with the full title, How Stupidity Has Undermined the American Dream. I'm close. Truth in the Age of Applause. Just go get the book by Dr. Andrew Fox. We'll be right back.